When I was a kid, I didn't dream of power. I dreamed of purpose. My name is Stanley, and I created heroes not to save the world but to help people believe they could. I was born in New York City, 1922. My parents, Jacob and Celia, were poor Jewish Romanian immigrants. We lived in a small, one-bedroom apartment in the Bronx. My brother Larry and I shared the only bedroom, while my parents slept on a fold-out couch in the living room. It was a tough life, especially during the Great Depression. My father struggled to find steady work, and the weight of that struggle filled our little home. But in that small apartment, my imagination made the world infinite. I escaped into books, movies, and words that could make the impossible feel real. I devoured Shakespeare, Arthur Conan Doyle, and Mark Twain. I was captivated by the swashbuckling adventures of actors like Errol Flynn. Words were my magic carpet, whisking me away from the harsh realities of our life. I didn't just read stories, I lived in them. They taught me that even in the darkest times, there was hope, adventure, and heroism. This love for storytelling, born from a need to escape, became the foundation of everything I would ever create. At just 17, I got my first break. Thanks to a family connection, I landed a job as an assistant at Timely Comics, the company that would later become the Mighty Marvel. My official title was Gopher. I was the kid who filled the inkwells for the artist, erased pencil lines from finished pages, and fetched lunch. I was just an assistant, filling ink bottles and correcting typos. But I was watching, learning, waiting for my moment. I watched the legendary Joe Simon and Jack Kirby craft heroes from thin air. I listened to their creative debates, absorbed their techniques, and studied how they wove words and pictures together to create magic. I wasn't just doing menial tasks. I was in the heart of the creative machine, learning the craft from the masters. I yearned to do more than just clean up. I wanted to write. I wanted to create. My chance finally came, albeit in a small way. I was asked to write a 2-page text filler for an issue of Captain America comics. It was my first published work. I signed it Stanley, a pseudonym I adopted because I was saving my real name, Stanley Lieber, for the great American novel I was sure I would one day write. Little did I know, Stanley would become the name the world knew me by. Slowly, my responsibilities grew. I went from writing text fillers to full comic scripts. When Simon and Kirby left the company, I was unexpectedly promoted to interim editor at the age of 19. It was a daunting role for someone so young, but I poured all my energy into it. I spent years writing in every genre imaginable: romance, westerns, horror, humor. I learned to be versatile, to meet deadlines, and to keep the company afloat. But by the late 1950s, I was feeling burnout. The industry was in a slump, and I was tired of writing stories that felt formulaic and uninspired. I was ready to quit. But my wife, Joan, gave me the best advice of my life. She said, "Before you quit, why don't you write one comic you'd be proud of? The worst that can happen is they fire you. You're going to quit anyway." She was right. I had nothing to lose. In 1961, that moment came. Our rival DC Comics was having huge success with their superhero team, the Justice League. My publisher, Martin Goodman, told me to create a superhero team of our own. Following Joan's advice, I decided to do something different. I didn't want perfect, godlike heroes. I wanted to create characters who were as flawed and human as the rest of us. Together with the incredible artist Jack Kirby, I created the Fantastic Four. They weren't just a team. They were a dysfunctional family. They argued, they had egos, they worried about paying the rent. They were real, and readers loved them. The Fantastic Four was a sensation, and it opened the floodgates. Then came Spider-Man, a teenager burdened with great power and even greater responsibility. Co-created with the brilliant Steve Ditko. He worried about homework, girls, and his sick aunt. He was us. Then came Iron Man, the flawed genius with a literal broken heart. The Incredible Hulk, a monster born from rage and pain. The X-Men, a group of outcasts feared and hated for being different, a powerful metaphor for the civil rights movement happening at the time. Thor, a god humbled by his own arrogance. We created an entire universe of heroes with flaws, emotions, humanity. Because I didn't want gods. I wanted people who fell, doubted, cried, and still kept fighting. This became the Marvel method. We weren't just creating characters, we were building a world. A connected universe where heroes crossed paths and shared struggles. People said comics were for kids. They were wrong. They said comics were cheap entertainment, a passing fad. They couldn't see what we saw. Comics are for dreamers. And dreamers are the ones who build tomorrow. We tackled real-world issues in our stories: prejudice, social injustice, the arms race. We weren't just writing escapism. We were holding up a mirror to society. We were telling stories that mattered, stories that made you think and feel. We were building a modern mythology, creating a new generation of heroes for a complex and changing world. Our readers weren't just kids, they were college students, intellectuals, people from all walks of life who saw the depth and relevance in what we were doing. We were creating a community. My journey wasn't all triumphs and parades. I faced failure, lawsuits, and betrayal. The creative partnerships that built Marvel were often strained, leading to bitter disputes over credit and compensation that still echo today. The business side of comics was ruthless. I lost control of my own creations more than once, watching them become corporate assets. There were times when the company was on the brink of bankruptcy, times when I felt lost and disillusioned. But I never lost my belief in storytelling. Because stories are immortal and imagination never retires. Stories have the power to inspire, to comfort, and to connect us. They are the legacy we leave behind, the echoes of our hopes and fears. Even when the business let me down, the stories never did. They kept me going. As the years went on, Marvel exploded from the comic page onto the big screen. When I started appearing in the Marvel movies, those little cameos weren't just a gimmick. For me, they were so much more. Each time I stepped on set, I was a proud father visiting his children. I was saying goodbye to my children, the heroes that carried my heart. Seeing Iron Man suit up, seeing Captain America wield his shield, seeing Spider-Man swing through New York City, it was my wildest dreams come to life. It was a chance to connect with a new generation of fans and to be a small part of the universe I helped create. I was the hot dog vendor, the mailman, the guy on the bus. I was a constant reminder of where it all began, with a pencil, a piece of paper, and a big idea. So, who am I? I'm just a kid from the Bronx who loved stories. I'm Stanley, and I didn't create superheroes. I created reflections of us. I created characters who show us that you don't need a cape or a hammer to be a hero. You just need a heart that's willing to do the right thing, even when it's hard. You need the courage to get back up after you fall. That's the real superpower, and it's inside every single one of us. So keep dreaming, keep believing, and never forget the hero within. Excelsior! Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more.